will be the first episode in a series about analyzing niche design choices and philosophies in games in hopes that when I make a game myself one day, I'll hopefully avoid making those same mistakes. And maybe it'll help someone else too. And to start us off, we have the 1.0 release of Lens Island. I'd rate this game a solid 7.5 B tier, but could have been an A tier with a couple different choices. It's got a good user interface with a couple very unique aspects, very tight and responsive controls, especially around combat, and a refreshing setting and overall style, and some design philosophies that just make sense now that I've interacted with them myself for the first time. Right away, this game equips you with your basic survival tools, and at first I was thrown off by this because it's weird and made me feel like I was playing a test build, but then I thought about how in games like this typically you punch trees and rocks for 10 minutes to get to that same point in time, so I wasn't really missing out on anything. What really shines about Lens Island is its combat in comparison to other survival building exploration type games. It is fun as hell to jump dodge over chasms and weapon swap to spam abilities, and the critical hit system is taking Gears of War's active reloads into medieval weaponry context. If you activate an auto attack or an ability while there's a white ring showing at the end of your weapon, you'll activate a critical hit. There's no critical hit chance in this game. Crits happen based off of your cadence and skill alone. That I love. No stamina system, but a cooldown for dodging, which does give iframes. A little cheesy by the end of the game where I went a glass cannon build and dodge roll spam to victory. Another thing I loved was how my build was basically a hammer assassin, focused on maximum DPS, just arguably with the slowest weapon in the game. Which sounds counterintuitive, but hammer assassin is a phrase I've never heard before, and just having the freedom to make a playstyle like that because of the absence of stat requirements or class restrictions was refreshing. However, I don't know anything about coding games for multiplayer, but a lot of the time in this one specific dungeon and a couple times elsewhere, I would not see my moment of death, as in there would be missing frames, presumably from what was being shown on my screen catching up to what was actually happening server side. This was extremely frustrating, but also it's the multiplayer update, and for any game, especially in indie dev, some jank is inevitable, and the jank was basically just that. Not much that I could really dock points for. There were a lot of refreshing things about this game, like how there are no dead perks in the little skill tree, how progression slows more and more toward the last tier of gear, and how rare those high tier resources genuinely are, as they should be. But you do have the tools to kind of streamline gathering those resources from the rune system, the specialized equipment for life skills, and the normally considered dead perks in other games, like extra gathering mechanics. For instance, you need squid ink to upgrade your weapons to the final tier in the game, so you have to go fish for squid in the Arctic, a decently difficult area to travel to and survive in, and then look for a rare fishing spot spawn, and then engage in a somewhat difficult fishing minigame, then go back to your base, refine the squid, and get 1 ink. And you need 1 ink per weapon upgrade. And to make the Damascus steel for the upgrades as well, there are like 4 tungsten spawns in the entire game, and it takes multiple in-game days for them to respawn. And me and my friend eventually just put a teleporter near each spawn because it was just that important, yet out of the way. Yet if you upgrade your gathering tools and socket runes in them and get the relevant perks, that's all way more manageable, and you'll have to gather a quarter as often as you would otherwise. And don't fret, you'll only have to do this once per weapon because in Lens Island, there's no durability or making extra of a rare or powerful weapon. You can just equip and unequip if an item's on your hotbar, and that brings us to the UI next. This is a survival game with the most streamlined inventory system possible, where every icon is shown and you know how much you have of everything, and there's no need for any organization or management. Even the resource storage containers are streamlined because every wood pile where you store your woods are connected to each other throughout the entire map. Same with the stone pile, same with the metal pile. This kind of linkage is enjoyable most of the time, but sort of takes away from your slight sense of accomplishment from conventional resource storage, and is also easily exploitable. Upgrading the towns and outposts for various rewards and resource generation was cool and a nice step away from satisfactory type automation, and reminded me more of Warcraft 3 custom game designs, which was thoroughly enjoyable. I even wish there was more to these systems because you can't hardly find them in other games right now since it's not meta at all. There were even some tower defense mechanics that worked out pretty well. I love tower defenses though, so maybe that's some bias there. The entire overworld is connected by a substantial cave system that you can also build in, sometimes repairing broken structures, which is a mechanic they could have played around with more, but also this makes the player build themselves, which feels more fun, like you're really on some sort of expedition each time you go underground. And with different biomes and materials that can only be found underground, it's got purpose too. The life skills are really engaging, to be honest, and there's a lot to do. You can't fully automate farming, for instance, but you can automate the watering of crops, and the planting is so satisfying because there's a plant all button and a plant last button. So you'll fill a planter in a couple clicks and then copy that last action in a couple more clicks instead of painstakingly individually doing so. Alongside the life skills, most tools and weapons in the game gain active skills as they're upgraded. Coupled with the jump dodging being faster than just running, there's always something to keep your fingers busy. There's a design philosophy that if there was a way to get somewhere just a bit faster than by default walking or running, if you use dodging and active skills to travel, then that distance will feel much shorter than it actually is because the player is occupied while traveling mentally. Or in the opposite direction, automate travel so that it's a sort of break time for the player. They can go get some water, stretch out. Lens Island shows the active travel philosophy and also applied it to all forms of gathering. Even the tools can critically hit their auto attacks and abilities, greatly shortening the amount of time you'll actually spend gathering. This is a perfect case of this concept and one that has a place in every game in some form. I've been in love with runes ever since Diablo 2, so when a game has socketables, I eat that shit up. They're decent in Lens Island, but there's so much more that needs to be included to make it really satisfying. My Hammer Assassin playstyle used the weighted rune specifically because it gives you the most damage possible at the cost of attack speed. But that's pretty much the only satisfying rune in the game that truly changes the way you play. Everything else could have just been added through the upgrade system. Socketables and enchants are there to fundamentally change certain non-standard aspects about gear, like shooting 3 arrows instead of 1, or infinite ammo, or now you can shoot arrows while moving. Besides a couple instances like this, the rest of the runes could have just been an email, so to say. There are 2 tiers of boats, but there needs to be a third that can double as a base because this game makes you run back to your dead body so often you will cry. Sure, just get good, but the amount of times that one dungeon with poor optimization caused me and my friend to run all the way back through it dozens of times. And the amount of times you'll have to make a whole nother boat to get back to your body on some random corner of the map you were exploring for fun, dozens of times. This game is old school in a couple ways, and that's one of them. They'll make you run back through what you've seen and experienced a dozen times if you don't prepare properly. I get it, but I hate it in a game so focused on decently long travel times, and it'll take you a good long while before you're putting up teleporters where you feel you need them. Death is a nuisance and inconvenience, but isn't punishing in any meaningful way, even on the difficulty right before permadeath. There's punishing and annoying when you make mistakes, and Lens Island is annoying for sure. Lastly, variety. Enemy variety, biome variety. The game just feels like one more month would have been all it needed to bring it up to the A tier for survival indie games. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 different enemy types you'll be fighting consistently, but they're all extremely similar besides the void towers, which you have to pickaxe to kill, which incorporating life skills directly into combat. Sick AF to BH. And there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 biomes that are genuinely different and have something else to offer from the other ones. Sparse comes to mind, but that's all the game needs for now. Me and my buddy had a great time playing through, and it's about a 20-hour game with your friends if y'all stay focused, and you probably haven't played a game that has Lens Island's refreshing mix of mechanics and only active with no passive moments in the game, unless your friend is driving a boat somewhere and you hitch a ride. Even running through corrupted dungeons while waiting for your crops to grow was a great time. And here's a tip if you decide to play after watching this video: farming is overpowered. So here's what I learned from Lens Island. A game that's similar to others, but does one thing exceptionally well and better than the others, that'll be a fun game. The combat and active combat ideas like jump dodging and the critical hit systems and tight responsive movement and the streamlined inventory systems do it better than any other game I've played in the survival building genre, especially indies. There was a focus on sea travel without proper support like a boat you can build a mobile base on, but that setting of several islands with different biomes that you jump to like you're in One Piece and you're adventuring with your crew, that holds the very essence of adventure. Thanks for watching.